thank you so much for meeting with us and interviewing with us. I really appreciate it. Now, I know that I read that you were actually a child actor.
Yes.
When did you decide that you wanted to try to go into voice acting and directing?
Well, weirdly, I'd actually already done a little bit of a voiceover as a child actor, just a couple little pieces here and there. And I had a friend when I was 12 years old, 11 years old, who was really into anime, which was unusual at that time. And living in this town, we went to Little Tokyo a lot and bought bits and pieces of it. I had a pretty impressive Saint Seiya collection at around 13 years old. And just being in the industry, this was like the very beginning of dubs, and they were just starting to kind of, it was starting to turn into an industry, and sitting there with a lot of my friends going, well, this stuff sounds like shit. It's awful. Oh, God. And coming sort of from an industry family, which is a weird thing to say, but, you know, if you come from a family where everybody, everybody makes horseshoes, you're going to look at a horseshoe someday and go, that's just a piece of shit. What's wrong with that? And everyone sort of stares at you blankly. We kind of broke it down. We had the tools, and we had people around us who were kind of like, well, let's see what's going wrong with it, and let's start experimenting with it and playing with it. And I got very attached to the idea of figuring out how to fix dubs. And they sort of, they sort of fixed themselves, but I got to come along for the ride. But I was fascinated with anime because it was such a different type of storytelling that you're used to. I was going to fan clubs. I watched, what was it, Dagger of Kamui, Blade of Kamui, I believe was the name of it. I just remember being a kid going and just watching everybody die horribly, despite the fact they didn't deserve it. What is this? Oh my God! It's like real life. That's great. And yeah, was just addicted to these fabulous stories where there was no justice in the world. I really clung to the idea that justice is dead, and that addicted me to Japanese cartoons.
Cool. So, what was your first anime voice acting gig?
Well, I did a fan dub.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Before fan dubs, well, there were a few fan dubs. I did a fan dub for a friend in my anime club for, it was Gundam 0080 if I recall. So I think it was 80 or 83. I got to think about that. And then I was like, well, I can do one of my own. And sort of, I did one of my own fan dubs and shopped it around as a demo. And the first, I got directing work before I got voiceover work. And the first directing gig was, I believe, Nazca Blades of Fate for Pioneer, way back in the day. And then just slowly, it was such a small community at the time, slowly everyone was working for everybody else. And you spend enough time with the booth teaching actors, getting actors through the process and teaching them to sound their best, that eventually like, oh, fuck it, I'll just get in there and fix it. And directors sort of started borrowing themselves, and the community kind of just sprouted up amongst themselves, and most of the directors also do voiceover at this point anyway. So
Okay.
it just sort of happened.
Okay, so my favorite character that you've done is Takeya from Deers.
Oh my God, yeah!
Deers is like one of those shows that when I'm feeling down, I put it on, and it just makes me laugh, and makes me smile. But what did your favorite character that you've done and why?
Oh, it's tough to have a favorite. Anime or video games? Does it matter? Or
No, I don't want to be.
Video games at the moment, it would probably be Dario Mograine, just because he's the most fun. All the Warcraft characters are always fun because there's very few technical restrictions on what you can do. It's very fast and loose, and you get to be a little bit broader and a little bit bigger than you normally. The video games in general, you get to be a little bit broader and bigger than you normally have to. Anime, oh my God, oh God, I have to come up with a favorite. That's really tricky. Deers with Takeya was an awful lot of fun. I did a piece for. There's so many of them too. It's really hard to remember. Paranoia Agent was a lot of fun. That was another one. It's hard to pick favorites. I like them all. It's really not fair. God, Girls Bravo. I mean, like even there was like one day on Girls Bravo that was just like a ton of fun. It's anytime they let you get away with anything silly and a little bit ridiculous. Oh yeah, I hate to pick favorites.
I mean, you don't have to pick.
Even Evangelion was a ton of fun for the ridiculousness that it was. So.
Okay.
Oh God.
Are there reams of outtakes that have yet to be heard that we need to
There are
listen
always
to?
reasons. No one's ever going to listen to them.
Yeah.
Some things are sometimes dead is better.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing anime, for example, do you listen to the original Japanese first and then try to base your character close, or do you try to go your own way?
As an actor,
Yeah.
I don't like that particular process. It's a lot like going into the theater and watching like 3 films of the play you're about to do. You don't necessarily want to, and I hate to use the word poison, you don't want to poison yourself. It's like going to a foreign country. The water's fine, you're probably not the person to be drinking it. It's not going to do good things to your constitution. It wasn't built for you. You've got to be very careful going in that you don't get hung up on something that you decide that somebody else brought to the character that you're not really going to be able to, and then you put in so much energy into putting that out, and you do it, and you can't. Instead of approaching it from an actor's standpoint and trying to bring the character out the best way you can, where you would get a better interpretation that way, and you wouldn't be hung up on what somebody else did that was not necessarily attainable with tools that you had available. That's a little over technical, but that's basically the point of it.
Okay. So yeah, you mentioned that you actually did directing before you did the voice acting. So do you have, now that you've done both, is there one that you kind of have a particular affinity for more than the other? You like in front of the, behind the mic, or?
Acting is sugar. Acting is immediate gratification. That is just this straight hard line buzz of, oh my god, that was fun, let's do that again. The directing, I will say that the process is much more grueling. It's not that instantaneous fun, but I can still get a little glow, a slightly bigger glow off things that happened 2-3 years ago that were the final long run is sort of a really amazing feeling that's kind of hard to beat. So getting to put the whole picture together is really there's nothing like it. So it's a tough choice.
Okay, so this is a question I ask whenever I interview an American voice actor. What is your argument for dubs to all the purists who refuse to watch English dubbed anime?
What is my argument? There is a time and place for subtitles, and I would even say that there's a time and place for different kinds of dubs. That there are such a thing as bad dubs. Bad dubs are easy to spot. I've watched lots of them. Bad subtitles, on the other hand, are really, really hard to spot because you don't know that you're watching bad subtitles. Most people would not know the difference between a good subtitle or a bad subtitle, and that's a problem. Subtitles are great as a study piece. If you're looking at something from from certain intellectual directions, subtitles do a very, very good job of allowing you to look through a window at something that's a little alien and a little bizarre, and kind of get a hold of it from a very certain direction. I know I'm being a bit vague. Dubbing does an amazing thing, especially if it's done well. And not every show should be dubbed, and not every dub is successful. But more and more, as time goes on, are successful, and we've gotten pretty good at it at this point. Is that a dub allows you to watch the show the way that it was intended to be watched. Now, I know that they're saying, but it was intended to be watched in Japanese. No, it was intended to be watched as a piece of entertainment. There are moments that the creators designed to make you laugh. There's feelings that the designers intended you to experience. There's moments that they wanted you to feel betrayed. All these things are really what they're trying to put forward. And I've been in theaters before with Japanese creators where we're watching something of theirs subtitled, and someone will laugh, and the creator will have a panic attack. I'm like, what are they laughing at? There was not supposed to be what's funny there? I'm like, I'm sorry. And they get a little nervous, they get a little queasy in that very particularly Japanese way. It brings you on a certain level closer to what the creators intended. If it's done right, you will laugh the same way a Japanese audience laughs, and you will, if done well, care the same way a Japanese audience cares, or the closest equivalent that we can create.
I completely agree. That's one of the reasons I always usually watch dub, is because I feel like you kind of miss something when you're reading along the bottom of the screen, because you kind of have to look down, okay, and then something else is going on.
You do. I mean, and there's give and take in both. There's things that subtitles do that dubs can't, and that's very fair. And there's things that dubs can do that subtitles can't. But they're not overlapping, and it's not an on and off switch. It's where on the target you're going to hit. It's always it's a target with no center is usually how I describe it. You get to kind of decide where you put your pin on the board, but you can never hit that perfect center of, I want to have the Japanese experience. You can even learn Japanese, and you're never really going to have the Japanese experience because you're not Japanese. And it's a sad truth, but it's more or less true. You're always going to be a little bit outside the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get really, really close to the center, or you can kind of decide whether or not you want to veer to the left or veer to the right, and whether you want it to be literal, and sometimes it should be literal, or whether or not you want the contextual and subtext, and you want to be able to hear if somebody's lying, and you want to get the jokes.
Okay. What advice do you have for all the people out there that want to break into voice acting? Hard question.
Run. It's honestly, it's really not that hard to break into. Just all you have to do is become an actor, and that'll pretty much do it. If you become an actor, you will learn all the skills necessary to become a voice actor. If you become a working actor, become a working actor. I will also say I will plug a friend of mine's book. My friend Yuri Lowenthal and Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt wrote a book that is one of the best books on like the nuts and bolts of it, becoming a voice actor. You can look it up. I think it's called Voiceover Voice Actor. I do not get a kick down for saying that. I have a few students I make them read the book. But again, my students are all working actors. So, become an actor, and that's the best advice I can give.
Right. Are they kicking?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.